Meeting the Spirits. That's the title of this latest chapter in unfolding what chaos shamanism is. I'm putting everything around that. Meeting the Spirits, that's where I began. 1997, in a way where I began. A shamanic journeying course, core shamanism, all those things like soul retrieval, soul theft, power animals, upper world, spirit guides, lower world, middle world, depossession, all those things. And you learn to journey and you establish a relationship with the various spirits that want to be around you. And then you learn to do work for other people. Because when we travel off on those journeys, we can enter other people's spirit worlds. And this is where you get one of the debates in shamanism about, well, what does shamanism mean? Yeah, for some people, shamanism is that spirit work that is taken originally from like the Far East, Siberia, Mongolia, places like that. And for some people, shamanism is this much broader project of indigeneity, reclaiming the indigenous soul. Academically, of course, shamanism is a Western word in the first place. But academically, it began with that narrower definition. Then academically, they began to use the broader definition. So they used both. And I think the same thing is just to go along with that. Sometimes we mean the more specific way. Sometimes we need mean the broader way. That's fair enough. The trouble is you get some people insisting it's one rather than the other. And that's just bring religion into it. It does get me fed up when people do that, when they insist they know what this thing's about from this culture 8,000 miles away. No, we need to be loose. We need to be open. We need to be flexible. Anyway, we're meeting the spirits. Well, what is a spirit? No one really said when I first went along and started learning this thing. No one really said what a spirit is. You just kind of meant to know what a spirit is, and suddenly everyone was talking about their spirits and what their spirits were saying. And I don't know what a spirit is. Do you know what a spirit is? Yeah. It is a bit like religion when people do that. There's this word, and you're all supposed to know what it means. It's a bit like with drugs. You're supposed to know what the latest word is for whatever it is, you know. It was pot, the generation before me, and then that became incredibly uncool. You do not say pot, you say some other word, and you're just meant to know. But it's like that with spirits. You just sort of meant to know what a spirit was, and they're meant to talk to you, or there's something wrong. And I don't know why we call them spirits. Anyway, so I'm coming in from a critical angle because I'm trying to get to essentials, not because I essentially want to criticize and destroy, but more because I want to get to essentials. And I think we do have a sense of something working through us, something around. Is it us? Is it something other? Well, we can't necessarily pin that down. From the viewpoint of the normal ego self that we function through, this thing working through us is other. Yeah. And so if we call that the spirits are other. And they make the point that we are more than just this narrow self with which we function in the world. There's something else going on that connects us to everything. That's what this is really about. And if we are that larger self, if we're not defined just by this worldly self, then in a way the spirits are us, but in that broader sense. It's the same with the unconscious. In a way, they're the unconscious, capital U, that Jung talks about. Not in the sense of less conscious, but just that which we are not conscious of normally. The spirits are always there. These forces of inspiration, the daemon, if you like, is always there. Those things which we have to do. So we can have this sense of just something working through us, but sometimes also it will have specific forms. It may be animal form. It may be human form. It may be plant form. It might be a rock. You might have a rock as a spirit helper. All these things are helpers. And if you like, they're intermediaries between us and the great spirit, the great mystery that is us. All our lives are about, fundamentally, is about coming close to that great mystery and living from it, living from where it guides us to go to next. And an intermediary can be helpful because it can be a bit much. I mean, the great mystery itself is a sort of infinite voltage. You know, ordinary humans cannot handle that. We are this tiny consciousness. It would destroy us. You get this in other traditions as well. The Tibetan tradition. You have all these bodhisattvas that you meditate on, all these forms. And through them, the white light of the greater reality can shine. That's why after death, these figures turn up. And they help us move closer to the white light. But to start with, you see the white light after you've died, and you can't handle it, it's too much. So you go for the lesser forms. That's their angle on it. So we have these forms. Sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not. It's good if they're not there all the time, because it reminds us what it's really about. And of course, people can get in a terrible fankle with all of this thing. It's like they get rigid about it. There's these three worlds: lower world, middle world, upper world, which are the middle world is like the subtle counterpart of this world, and then you've got the upper world and the lower world. I'm not going to go into all of that. Go and do a course on core shamanism if you want to find out all about that. It's a good system, but it's a system. That's my point. Yeah. And we need a loose relationship with it. We can reduce those three worlds to the other world, just one other world, which is what you had in ancient Celtic times. And even that is a false distinction. Yeah? There is only one world. There is only this world. But because we're busy humans, we get attached to the material and the immediate, and we lose that bigger, subtler, nourishing perspective. So it gets called the other world, and we go and we engage with it at special times, like in ceremonies, yeah? Or at special times of year when the veil is thin. But actually, the veil is always thin, whether it's to the other world, to the world of the dead. All of those places, they're with us all the time. And I think you get more of a sense of that the more that you do this kind of work, the more you live from that sort of place. That's the main thing. Not how good your shamanic journeying is, but where you live, whether you live from that place, whether you do the thing that you have to with your life. Okay, I'll leave it there for now and return for a second session.